The boardroom at Nexus Dynamics had always felt too cold. Maybe it was the steel and glass design. Or maybe it was just the ice in my sister Victoria's voice as she stood at the head of the table, perfectly manicured finger pointing in my direction. "Look at these numbers," she continued, clicking through slides I'd never seen before. Project delays, budget overruns, critical system failures, all under Amanda's supervision. She's incompetent, and she's dragging this company down. I sat quietly, watching the faces around the table. Most wouldn't meet my eyes. These were people I'd worked with for 8 years, people who'd celebrated my promotions, attended my project launches. Now they studied their tablets or stared at their water glasses, anywhere but at me. "The new platform launch is in 2 weeks," Victoria pressed, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood as she paced. "We can't afford another failure, not with the investors watching." I almost smiled at that. If only she knew about the patent, about the careful preparations I'd made when I first suspected she was plotting against me. But Victoria had always seen what she wanted to see. Her quiet, plotting older sister, too focused on code to play office politics. Amanda. Harrison Wells, the board chairman, finally spoke. "These accusations are serious. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" I thought about the real numbers, safely encrypted on my private server, about the actual reason for the delays. Victoria's team repeatedly changing specifications, demanding impossible deadlines, setting up failure after failure. "No," I said simply, closing my laptop. "I think Victoria has made her position clear." Victoria's perfect eyebrows rose slightly. She'd expected a fight, wanted one probably. It would have fit her narrative. The emotional, unstable sister who couldn't handle pressure. "Well then," Harrison sighed, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Given the evidence presented, and with the critical launch period approaching, the board has decided immediate action is necessary. Amanda, we're terminating your position as Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately." I nodded once, standing slowly. "I understand. I'll clear out my office." "That's it?" Victoria's voice held a note of disappointment. "No protests. No excuses." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The Channel soup that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. The cold ambition in her eyes that matched our mother's. The slight smile playing at her lips as she watched me fall. "What would be the point?" I asked quietly. "You've clearly made up your mind." I gathered my things with careful precision, feeling the weight of the thumb drive in my pocket, the one containing proof of what I'd actually been doing these past 8 years. Building not just a platform, but a fortress. One that Victoria, in her rush to push me out, hadn't bothered to understand. The walk to my office was silent. Employees quickly looked away as I passed. News of my firing already spreading through the corporate grapevine. I didn't blame them for their silence. Victoria had made it clear what happened to people who stood against her. My office, with its view of the city skyline, had been my home for nearly a decade. Pictures of project launches, team celebrations, the first prototype of what would become our core system, all carefully packed into a cardboard box. Sarah, my assistant, appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "Security's coming up. Victoria's orders." "Of course she did," I murmured, pulling a sealed envelope from my desk drawer. "Can you make sure this gets to Harrison? After I'm gone." She took it, tucking it into her blazer. "What's going to happen now?" I smiled, thinking about the patent documents safely filed with my lawyers, about the kill switch built into the system's core architecture. about Victoria's precious launch, scheduled for exactly 2 weeks from today. Now, I picked up my box. Now we wait. Security escorted me to the lobby, past whispers and stares. Victoria watched from the executive floor balcony, triumph written across her features. She thought she'd won. She thought it was over. She had no idea it was just beginning. At home, not the modest apartment listed in my HR file, but the penthouse I'd bought when I first filed the patent. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. A message from my lawyer was waiting. Everything's in place. They won't know what hit them. I thought back to how it all started, 8 years ago when Victoria and I had joined Nexus Dynamics together. She'd taken the management track, all sharp suits and sharper ambition. I'd chosen technology, losing myself in code while she climbed the corporate ladder. What she never understood was that I'd been climbing too, just differently. While she collected allies and manipulated office politics, I'd been building something revolutionary, the platform that now powered not just Nexus Dynamics, but half their client companies as well. A platform I'd patented in my own name, through a separate holding company, long before Victoria started plotting my removal. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus, my team's lead developer. V's already reorganizing everything, telling everyone the launch will fix all our technical issues. Should we warn them? No, I typed back. Let them figure it out the hard way. I walked to my home office, where a wall of monitors displayed the system's core metrics. Everything looked normal on the surface, but beneath the clean interface and smooth operations lay a carefully crafted maze of dependencies and fail-safes. Victoria thought she was launching a new version of our platform. What she didn't know was that every critical function, every key feature, was tied to my original architecture that would require patent holder approval, my approval, for any significant changes. Another message, this time from Sarah. Harrison read the envelope. Called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. V's furious. I smiled, imagining my sister's reaction to the preliminary audit I'd included. The real numbers showing how her team had sabotaged project after project, trying to make me look incompetent. But that was just the appetizer. The main course would come with the launch. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of corporate announcements. Victoria gave interviews about Nexus Dynamics' exciting new direction. The stock price rose on promises of revolutionary updates to the platform. My name was carefully erased from company materials, my contributions attributed to the team. I watched it all from my penthouse office, monitoring system metrics and handling quiet inquiries from my patent attorneys. A few board members tried to contact me, probably finally reading the fine print on the system documentation. I didn't respond. Let them sweat. The night before the launch, I received an unexpected visitor. Mother, elegant as always and dire, standing at my door with a familiar look of disappointment. Amanda, she sighed, pushing past me into the penthouse. What are you doing? Victoria says you're threatening the company with some ridiculous patent claim. I let her take in the space. The high-end furniture, the wall of technology, the view that spoke of success she'd never acknowledged. Not threatening, I corrected quietly, protecting my intellectual property. She waved a manicured hand dismissively. Don't be difficult. You know Victoria deserves this opportunity. She understands business, leadership. You've always been too technical. I thought about tomorrow, about what would happen when Victoria tried to launch her improved version of my system, about how being too technical was about to change everything. Maybe, I said, showing her to the door. We'll see tomorrow, won't we?" As security let her out, I turned back to my monitors. Everything was in place. In less than 12 hours, Victoria would learn the true cost of underestimating her technical sister. I slept surprisingly well that night, waking to dozens of messages about the launch preparations. Nexus Dynamics stock was up 15% in pre-market trading, riding high on Victoria's promises of revolutionary changes. Sarah kept me updated. Conference rooms packed. Press, investors, full board. V's wearing white. Says it's for a fresh start. I smiled, checking the time. In exactly 1 hour, my sister would learn what a fresh start really meant. Marcus sent me the launch livestream link. I settled into my office chair, wine glass in hand, and prepared to watch the show. "Ready?" he messaged. "Born ready," I replied, clicking play. Victoria appeared on screen, resplendent in white Alexander McQueen, confidence radiating from every pore. Behind her, a massive display showed the platform's interface, my interface, though my name was nowhere to be seen. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "welcome to the future of Nexus Dynamics." I took a sip of wine and smiled. The future was coming, all right, just not the one she had in mind. Victoria's voice flowed smoothly through my speakers, practiced and polished. "Today marks a new era for Nexus Dynamics. Our enhanced platform represents months of innovative development, streamlined architecture, and," I glanced at the time, 10:59 a.m. "In exactly 1 minute, the system would attempt to validate the launch protocols against the patent registry. In exactly 1 minute, Victoria's perfect world would crash around her designer heels. Let me demonstrate the revolutionary changes we've implemented," she continued, tapping the presentation screen with manicured confidence. "As you can see," the screen flickered once, then went dark. Victoria tapped again, her smile faltering slightly. Nothing happened. "Minor technical difficulty," she said smoothly, but I could see the panic beginning to bloom in her eyes. "If we could just—" Every monitor in the conference room suddenly lit up with the same message. "Lounge CQNC tier mine ATD PTNT VALIDAK FAILED OWAR APROVA REQIRECONTACT Amanda BNATT PATENT holder." The room erupted in whispers. Through the live stream, I watched Victoria's face drain of color as she read the message, as understanding finally dawned. "What is this?" Harrison Wells stood up, his voice sharp with alarm. "Victoria, explain." But Victoria was frozen, staring at the screen like it had personally betrayed her. In a way, it had. My phone buzzed. Sarah sending updates from inside the room. Board members pulling up patent documents on their tablets. Investors asking questions. V looks like she's about to faint. I took another sip of wine, watching the chaos unfold. Then my screen lit up with an incoming video call from Harrison Wells himself. I let it ring twice before answering. "Amanda," he said, his face tight with controlled panic. "We need to talk." "Yes," I agreed calmly. "We do. The conference room. Now." I smiled. "No, Harrison. My office. The penthouse at the Sterling. 30 minutes. He started to protest, but I cut him off. 30 minutes, or I'll start responding to the reporters who are undoubtedly calling about the failed launch. 28 minutes later, my elevator opened. Harrison Wells led the procession. Looking significantly less composed than usual, followed by 3 board members, our chief legal counsel, and Victoria, her white suit now slightly crumpled, her perfect mask cracking. "Welcome," I said from my position behind a massive desk they didn't know I owned. "Please, sit." Victoria's eyes darted around the space, taking in the luxury she hadn't known I could afford. "How?" she started. "How did I afford this?" I finished for her. "The same way I afforded the patent attorneys. The same way I afforded the private development team that helped build the original system. Success leaves clues, Victoria. You just never bothered to look for them." Harrison cleared his throat. "Amanda, we've reviewed the patent documentation. It appears there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," I corrected, sliding copies of the patent registration across the desk. "Just willful ignorance." Victoria was so busy trying to push me out that she never checked who actually owned the intellectual property she was planning to enhance. Victoria's face flushed. "You deliberately hid this from me." "Did I?" I pulled up emails on my monitor, displaying them on the wall screen. "Here's me 3 years ago, explaining the patent strategy to the board. Here's the documentation in the system architecture files. Here's the validation protocol that your team ignored when they started making changes." The chief legal counsel, Barbara Chen, leaned forward. "The patent is ironclad, and the system dependencies are exactly as I designed them," I finished. "Every critical function, every core feature requires patent holder validation for significant changes. Victoria's enhanced version? It's trying to modify protected architecture without approval. You're holding the company hostage." Victoria burst out. I turned to her slowly. "No, sister dear. I'm protecting my intellectual property, the same property you've been taking credit for while plotting to push me out." I pulled up another document, the real numbers I'd been tracking, showing how Victoria's team had systematically sabotaged projects to make me look incompetent. Interesting pattern, isn't it? I observed as the board members leaned in to study the data. Every time my team got close to completing a project, mysterious changes would be requested. Impossible deadlines would appear. Resources would vanish. Victoria's face had gone from red to white. "You can't prove." "Actually," Sarah's voice came from the doorway as she walked in with a thumb drive, "we can. I've been documenting everything, including your late-night meetings, about getting rid of the technical dead weight." Harrison's jaw tightened as he looked between us. "What do you want, Amanda?" I stood, moving to the window overlooking the city. "3 things. First, a public correction regarding my contribution to the platform. Second, Victoria's immediate resignation." "You can't." Victoria started. "I can." I cut her off. "Unless you prefer I license the patent to our competitors." The room went silent. Everyone there understood what that would mean. Without access to my system, Nexus Dynamics would collapse within months. "And third?" Harrison asked quietly. "I want my job back, not as CTO, as CEO." Victoria knocked over her water glass as she stood. "This is ridiculous. You can't just—" "Sit down, Victoria," Harrison ordered, his voice tired. "Your sister isn't asking. She's telling. And given the circumstances, we don't have much choice." Barbara was already pulling out her tablet. "I'll draft the necessary paperwork. The board will need to vote, but given the patent situation, the vote will pass," Harrison finished. He looked at me with something like respect. "You planned this all along, didn't you? Even before Victoria made her move." I smiled. "I learned early that being underestimated can be an advantage. Victoria thought I was too focused on code to play politics. She was wrong. Within hours, the paperwork was signed. Victoria was escorted out by security, her white suit no longer quite so pristine. Harrison called an emergency board meeting to ratify my appointment as CEO. By evening, the press releases were going out, announcing both the leadership change and clarifying the true ownership of Nexus Dynamics core technology. Sarah found me in my new office, the one Victoria had so recently occupied, late that night. "Your sister left this," she said, holding up a framed photo. It showed Victoria and me at the company's launch party 8 years ago, both smiling, both unaware of where we'd end up. "Keep it," I said, as a reminder. Of what? That success doesn't always look like you expect it to. The next few weeks were a blur of transitions. The platform launch was rescheduled, this time with proper credit for its innovation. The stock price, after a brief dip, rose steadily as investors gained confidence in the new leadership. Mother called several times. I let her leave messages, each one progressively less confident, more conciliatory. Finally, I agreed to meet her for lunch. She sat across from me at an exclusive restaurant I'd chosen, looking older somehow, less certain of her world. "I never understood you," she admitted after an uncomfortable silence. "Victoria was so much like me, focused on appearance, on position. You were always in your own world, with your computers and code." "That world," I reminded her gently, "just made me CEO of a major tech company." She nodded, pushing her salad around her plate. "Victoria's leaving the country. Dubai, I think. Says she needs a fresh start." "Good for her." "Will you ever forgive her?" she asked. "Us?" I considered this, thinking about the years of dismissal, of being underestimated, of watching Victoria take credit for my work. "I already have," I said finally. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or letting it happen again." A month after taking over as CEO, I called my first all-hands meeting. Standing at the podium, looking out over the employees who had once avoided my eyes in hallways, I thought about perception and reality, about quiet power and loud ambition. "Many of you knew me as the quiet CTO," I began, "the one who stayed late coding while others networked at parties. Some of you probably wondered how someone like that ended up as CEO." The room was silent, attentive. The truth is, leadership isn't about who talks the loudest or plays politics the best. It's about building something valuable and knowing how to protect it. It's about understanding that real power often works quietly, behind the scenes, waiting for the right moment to emerge. I clicked to my first slide, a patent document with my name on it. This company's future was built in lines of code, in late-night debugging sessions, in technical details that some people thought didn't matter. They were wrong, and now we're going to show them just how wrong they were. The applause was genuine, enthusiastic. As I looked out over the crowd, I caught Sarah's eye. She was grinning. "Worth the wait?" she mouthed. I nodded, thinking about Victoria's face when she realized what I'd done, about the years of preparation that had led to this moment. Later that evening, as I sat in my CEO's office watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold, Marcus brought me a final piece of news. "Victoria's team," he said, trying to hide a smile. "They've all been trying to access the system documentation. Apparently, they're worried about their own projects." I laughed. "Send them the patent registration." Again. Some lessons need to be learned more than once. Because that's the thing about being underestimated. It teaches you patience. It teaches you to build carefully, to prepare thoroughly, and to wait for exactly the right moment to show your true strength. Victoria had wanted to be CEO because of the power it represented. I had become CEO because of the power I'd already built, line by line, piece by piece, while she was too busy looking down at me to see what I was creating. My phone buzzed. A message from Harrison. Board meeting tomorrow. Quarterly numbers looking excellent. Your sister's been calling about her stock options. I smiled, remembering Victoria's words at that fatal board meeting. She's incompetent. Fire her. Tell her to contact our patent attorneys. I typed back. They handle all my negotiations now. Because sometimes the best response to being underestimated isn't immediate revenge. It's building something so valuable, so essential, that those who dismissed you have no choice but to face their mistake. And if that realization comes with a side of poetic justice, well, that's just good system design.